I'm really moved by your words. Thank you. And I'm not going to say much before this movie. We can talk after. We will have a Q&A, and I really look forward to that. So please don't leave or you'll offend me. I think it feels like just yesterday that I started this. I'm just kidding. It feels like a long time ago. And it's been many, many years. And the people that ultimately ended up being involved in the making of it are really brave people. And they're people that stuck with me through just sheer belief. And that includes my producers and the members of this cast who I will be friends with for the rest of my life. And I love so dearly. And I'm going to ask them all to come out here in just a moment, just to stand up here with me before the movie starts, and then we'll all join you and we'll watch this thing together. I just wanted to say that the film is captioned tonight, so it's not just subtitled, it's captioned. And really this is the beginning of an experiment of bringing together two distinct cultures, which are the hearing culture and the deaf culture, and enjoying a film together. And that means that we all experience the film slightly differently, but we do it together in the same room. And I'm really excited about that. So thanks everybody. Not that I can see you, because this is, I just see lights, but thanks so much for being here. There's so many people in the audience that worked on this movie, and afterwards we'll talk more about that, and so many of my family that are here, and it's really moving to me. And so right now I'd just like to ask some of the cast and my brother and co-writer and my dear producers from Caviar and Kathy Benz, and these are people that fought and fought and fought for this movie. I'd like to ask all of them to come out here and stand with me for a moment before we begin. There's many more people sitting out here that should be up here also, but this is a group of people behind me that really showed a lot of heart. So I am eternally grateful, and I would just say before we begin, the normal cell phone thing to say, and the film's very much about sound, so I would love to not hear a ring if possible. If we do, it's okay. It's not. Anyway, thanks again, everybody, for being here, and we'll talk afterwards. Thanks. Chelsea's coming.
Thank you so much, Darius, for this film, and thank you to all of you for what is a remarkable achievement. Every film is supposed to immerse us in a world, but I don't think I've ever seen a film that immersed us in a way of experiencing the world like I did with your film. Can you tell me a little bit about the story, what drew you to it, and what were the building blocks of creating this world that Riz's character has to enter, because it's all new to him, and I don't know if it was new to you as well. Welcome.
Well, thank you, and I hope, by the way, anyone who had trouble back there is okay. I was reminded of a time when someone had a cardiac arrest in a movie that I was watching, and they turned the lights on and stopped the movie, and someone in front of me was like, "Why does this always happen to me?" that helped me. Anyway, I hope you're okay. The process of writing this with my brother Abraham, who's here, was really interesting. I mean, this began with a doc that actually began with my dear friend Cianfrance, and we were working on this doc hybrid with a band, Jucifer, and so it began with this real visceral music, this very loud music. And the whole idea of the sensory experience that could exist from this took root in me, and I couldn't get rid of it. And some of this, there's a mysterious process that happens in writing where you realize why you're writing it maybe years later, which did happen with me. But the idea of being within someone's psyche as it relates to their own experience felt very universal to me. It felt like something we could all experience and go somewhere new cinematically. And then the process, once it started, once we started shooting, really took off from that point where it was very experiential in the shooting. And, while we were writing, it was very imaginative, but when we shot, it started to become real. And Riz actually was courageous enough to launch into a process where he actually wore devices custom made in his ears while we were shooting. So he heard a white noise that didn't allow him to hear his own voice. And so his process, your process, was utterly visceral. And I think what I was hoping to do was just to honor that and honor the process that people go through so that we can experience something new.
Riz, I want to hear about the process, because I think a lot of us know that you're a rapper and a musician, but I don't know if you were a drummer before you started this film as well.
I'm not.
Yeah. But you look
not.
You look like a brilliant drummer.
You are.
Can you talk a little bit about building this character with Darius? There was a lot that I imagined that was new to you that you had to learn. What did you have to go through to create this character?
First of all, I just want to say that when I read the script, it was one of the most profoundly moving scripts I'd ever read. And when I met Darius, I thought this is one of the craziest people I've ever met. And I think that combination led us all down this journey of building bridges and kind of building a family, between people from such different backgrounds and bridging so many different worlds. And I'm really grateful for that process, and I'm grateful to Darius for letting us all go on that journey, because this is a really bold film to make, and it took him 10 years to get this film made, and I'm just so grateful that you made it, man. Thank you so much. In terms of the drumming, my drum teacher, Guy Licata, is here. Guy, could you stand up, please? Well, he is a patient man, is what I'll say. So yes, it was an intense process of preparation with, it was about 6.5 months, 7 months of drumming every day. And Jeremy Stone, who my character Ruben Stone, when he said pick a surname for Ruben, I said Stone because it had to be Jeremy. And we were signing every day for 6-7 months. Sick of me by the end of that process. So it was a big, intensive journey of preparation, but it was a joy, it was enriching, and I'm just feel really privileged to have been guided through that journey by these mentors and the generosity, in particular, of the deaf community, and allowing us to share a piece of their culture.
I wanted to ask about the immersion that the film and your character takes into deaf culture, and you're meeting some people who have been living in that culture for a long time, but for your character it's new, and I imagine for some of you making the film that was new as well. Can you talk a little bit about that coming together, that conversation between those who were already immersed in deaf culture, living in deaf culture, and those who weren't, and what might have been involved in building that bridge?
Well, that was one of the most amazing learning experiences for me, and learning curves, and it was just incredibly inspiring because I kept having to expand my own understanding of it. You know, we think of deafness as a physical condition, but it became clear to me really quickly that it's a culture. It's not a condition at all. It's a culture. It's a culture of people who live and are utterly kind of ignored by our society a lot of the time. So I felt very privileged to find my way into that culture. And also, I don't know if anybody noticed, but the film is dedicated to my grandmother, Dorothy, who actually went deaf late in life, and not too late in life. She went deaf and found herself kind of between two cultures, between the hearing and the deaf culture. And she was a cinephile, and she spent the rest of her life petitioning to get films captioned. So that was very much alive in me and Abe, my brother, while we were writing it, and we thought a lot about her. But then the entree into the deaf community, I just feel so privileged to be kind of accepted in. And Chelsea actually gave me a name. That's important, because otherwise I wouldn't have a name, which is this, which I'm very happy to have, and now I can never shave. I never shave my beard. No, it's amazing it makes you, deaf culture is so incredible because it's so different from the world we live in the sense that, you know, you can't look at your phone while you're talking to someone. You have to be engaged. It's really physical. And 50% of the language takes place in your expressions, in your face. And so it's emotive. And I don't think as hearing people, we emote very much. You know, people say, how you doing? You say, yeah, good. And you know, there's nothing to signify goodness in our face quite often. And so, you know, being within that culture asks us to experience our own emotions and actually witness our own emotions. And it's something certainly that you went through, I know, when you had to kind of come to terms with that. And I found that very profound.
Wonder if there are any comments also from Chelsea, Paul, Domenico, Olivia as well, in terms of that coming together of hearing and deaf culture.
Deaf culture, I'm sorry, the question.
Just how was it as a cast and crew making the film to build that bridge between the hearing and the deaf cultures on set and in the making of the film?
When we were on set, it happened rather quickly. Deaf people are very expressive and open, and just the fact that Darius was making a film about deaf culture, they were pleased as hell to be involved, because there's not very many movies made about deaf people, and when they do make them, they kind of screw them up. They either cast somebody that's not deaf as a deaf person, culturally deaf, and it never works out. So it was just a very rich experience to be on that farm with all these deaf people, and Riz and Darius just made it just like a real family experience. You don't need this.
I don't need the microphone, Paul.
Thank you. I'm so used to being an interpreter. Wait, no.
Okay, well, I just want to thank Darius, Riz, everyone on the team. They gave an enriching experience to be able to show our community the patience to sit and to have the back and forth and to take the time to learn about us and invest in us and look at our end result here. And thank you so much for that.
Olivia, your role is also a challenging one in the film because your character is not going through what Riz's character is, and you have such a strong relationship at the beginning of the film as musicians who are kind of really bonded in that music you're making, and then the bond fractures a little bit. Can you talk a little bit about going through that and how you built your character?
Yeah, I think we've all been in those relationships that become quite codependent very quickly, and I think what was incredible about Lou and Ruben's relationship is that their bond was based on getting better together. And once they were apart and they found the time to heal themselves, their need for each other wasn't there anymore, which is sometimes the most heartbreaking way to part with someone, because there's no visible fissure. So not going from real life or anything, but
I'd like to get some questions from you as well. So please, let's go right here first of all.
Riz, I was a huge fan of your HBO show a couple years ago, The Night Of, and I saw a real link in terms of the vulnerability of that character, the vulnerability of this character. And did you see that too, or is that just something we're picking up off the screen?
Just to repeat for those who might not have heard, the question was about your character in The Night Of, the series, and the vulnerability in that character and the connection to the vulnerability of your character here as well.
You know, it's interesting. I think, like, if you asked me 5 years ago, if someone said, yo, I noticed something similar in this character and last character, I'd be like, shit! Screwed up! And, you know, it's interesting that the process of making this film actually shifted how the way I think about acting and what I think is really about. I think, you know, for many of us who live our lives having to navigate spaces that aren't of our own making, that have to kind of code switch, that have to wear masks, that have to switch identities from one place to another, we're quite good at putting on masks. And I think for a lot of my life and most of my career, I've been kind of making masks and putting them on. And I think Darius really taught me that actually it's about unmasking. And I think there's probably more of me in this character than any other I've played before. And I think that's something I'm learning to embrace as well, and seeing the kind of the pride and the unapologetic presence of the people that I've kind of shared this process with. People like Jeremy, people like Chelsea, people like the Toledo family. And in a way, I hope that you kind of see more and more of me going forwards in everything I do. So thank you.
Thank you for your question. There was someone way up in the balcony. Go ahead, yes?
I'll try using my big teacher voice. First of all, thank you for sharing your art with us. For Riz, I would really like to thank you for basically whatever you've been doing, your music, your Four Lions movie, that really kind of picked up off on like your own journey, and just kind of like thank you for like being such a positive influence. And as someone who's South Asian and living in like two different worlds, it's really nice for people like us to kind of look up and kind of see like idols and heroes, all people like you who represent us in such a positive light. And just a little question: 2 years ago, the Sweatshop Boys were supposed to come to Toronto, but that show was canceled. Is there any future plans?
Cut the lights. Yeah.
All right, somebody's got a beatbox then.
God willing, thank you for the love. Yeah, hopefully we'll
For those who didn't hear, it was just a comment about how important it is to see what you've been doing in terms of your music, films like Four Lions, everything you've been doing to represent, and also a question about when you're going to come back and perform your music. All right, yes, let's go over here.
Hi, hello. I just want to make sure you can see me okay. Hello. Really, Cameron, Toronto International Film Festival, thank you very much. Darius, as the filmmaker, thank you for allowing open caption film here at the North American English Open Caption Film.
Our pleasure. It was something
Thank
that we
you.
wanted to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
I very much appreciate that. I do have a question. How long for the deaf cast members, how long for that process to make the film, for your involvement? Can I actually get an answer from the deaf cast members? How many days, how many weeks? Was it 1 day, 2 days? The filming, the whole process for you, can you let us know?
It was about a month process, I guess. Sorry, the interpreter's going to start again. The filming itself, I guess the time frame was about a month, but Darius met us quite much in advance.
Jen, my character.
to develop Jen, my character. So we had a lot of discussions in advance about that and the character development.
So how long was I involved in making the film, for the filming? Me? Okay. It took a week. It was maybe a short time to develop my character, and it was really hard to try and control, I forgot how you spell it. It was a character that has ADHD, so my character was lacking self-control. I really enjoyed the filming with everyone, and I had fun, so thank you to Darius for all of it. Thank you.
All right, time for maybe one or two more questions. Let's go back here.
Can I just take you with me and you can talk at every screening? Thank
That was
you.
beautiful. Completely not a question, but I loved it.
Hey, Cameron, can I just ask before we have a lot of people here that worked on the movie, and I just before we leave, I wonder if my dear editor, who is just such a true north for me, and Mikkel is here, and J-Dub, who did production design, is here, and there's so many people here. Carolina, who worked tirelessly on sound. There's so many people here. Everybody, I really looked for crew who were storytellers. I really looked for people. I tried to get everybody on this set who's a storyteller, and these guys really are. J-Dub would come every day with ideas of like, hey, Lou's seat's gonna face the other way, and it was just so great because it was all coming from a place of character and story. I just wonder if everyone who worked on the movie could stand for a moment. Anybody here who worked on the movie could just stand, yes. Thank you.
Thank you. There's so much to talk about with this film. There's a whole technical element, what you did with sound as well, that I'd love to get into, but we are running out of time. I just want to make sure that we take care of your questions. So there was one more we'll go to, and then we'll have to wrap. Go ahead. There's a big thank you for making the film, for representing invisible disabilities for someone who is living with that, and a question about what message do you have to say, either with a film or right now?
Well, I do think there's just so many. We all live in our own bubble, and I think that's the film really does explore that. And I can't necessarily speak to outreach or a political message, but I do think that, you know, we all are in our bubbles of, and largely our own conditions go unseen. And ultimately, you know, especially, you know, the deaf community goes unseen largely, even though there are millions of deaf people, and individuals have struggle with all sorts of things. And I think this film really, for me, when I watch it and experience it in the writing and the watching and the making, it was a big focus of mine, is how we are really viscerally within an experience that reminds us that things aren't what they seem from the outside. So I'm really glad that it hopefully, I think I heard in your question that you felt less alone. And if that's the case, then that's great.
Thank you. Oh, please go ahead, Paul.
If I could just speak, directly to that young lady, the thing that really comes across with me, I grew up with deaf parents. I grew up in deaf culture. And it's not just about people that are culturally deaf, the ones that you see in the movie, like Chelsea, who uses sign language. But there's another whole population out there. Ever since the artillery division was brought into our war, starting with the Civil War, there are so many veterans of our wars that have hearing loss. I myself am a Vietnam veteran. I worked on an aircraft carrier, and in those days, those little Mickey Mouse things they put on your ears didn't work at all. There's a whole population of deaf people out there that just have hearing loss from a myriad of diseases and accidents and workplace environments that are invisible, as she said, and you're just thinking about deaf people like Chelsea and Dominic, but there's also people that are not culturally deaf, they're latent deaf, like the character that I play, Joe, who loses his hearing in the war, and he doesn't know anything about deaf people, but they're out there. That's why I'm so grateful that you open caption this movie. In my opinion, every movie should be open captioned, because you have no idea how many hard of hearing and deaf people there are out there, period.
Thank you. We're going to have to wrap it there, unfortunately, so I just want to ask you to please join me in thanking Chelsea Lee, Paul Rassi, Domenico Toledo, Olivia Cooke, Riz Ahmed, and the director Darius Marder. Thank you also to the interpreters. Thanks for coming tonight.